The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is well known for being completed in just over 1 year, an impressive feat for a game of this quality and praise. However, even with its short length, it did have a number of features planned that were cut. These even include a number of items and abilities. Some were just carried over from Ocarina of Time, some just prototypes to the final version, and some were just plain never seen in the final game. So today on Cut Content, we explore the cut items and abilities of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell too to further support us and keep creating new videos. Starting right off, we'll begin with the very theme of this game, cut masks. In the earliest screenshots, we saw one of these masks actually, equipped right to the C button. This looking a lot like Link's face, not Child Link's face, but rather adult Link's face. Found within the text of the officially released Hyrule Historia, a number of different designs exist under Majora's Mask for adult Link, looking very much like he did in Ocarina of Time. The text to go along with this even reads that this may have been a prototype to Fierce Deity Link. And this makes a lot of sense. Fierce Deity Link uses a modified base of adult Link, from his model, voice, and even animations, so it would make sense that during that time of development, Link instead was able to transform into adult Link. The interesting part is how the mask was usable anywhere and not just the boss room. In fact, looking back at those concept arts of adult Link, we see him even standing next to civilians. A theory I have is that the purpose of the adult Link mask may have been for Link to be taken more seriously by adults when wearing this mask and gaining access to areas he couldn't as a kid. Otherwise, it's hard to say what other differences there could have been. Maybe the old item split from Ocarina of Time between Child and Adult Link may have existed here too? Now, in contrast to Adult Link, we have a Child Link mask that is found in the very data of the game. This one, unlike the Adult Link mask, is definitely young Link's face here, and again, Hyrule Historia has a concept art of it being worn by Deku Link. However, what would be the purpose of this mask even? My theory is that originally, in order to become Child Link again, Link would have to wear a mask of his actual self to transform rather than rip off whatever mask he was wearing to revert back. In other words, that picture of Deku Link wearing it may have been right as he is about to transform. Imagine seeing those creepy pain-inducing expressions with young Link's mask. Now, the big oddity with this mask is that it can easily be swapped with Skull Kid's mask so that he is now wearing it. The answer isn't clear why, especially since it was found amongst Skull Kid's objects, but maybe originally Skull Kid stole the Child Link mask at one point in the story, and thus you had to retrieve your true self back. Now, in relation to masks, as we know, whenever Link transforms, his ocarina transforms into different instruments for each form. Originally, however, each of these forms were going to have their own instruments separate from the ocarina. Found through both old screenshots and a debug menu of the game, the instruments exist as separate entries. If you, for example, have the Goron Drums equipped while not wearing the Goron mask, you can't use it, but when you transform, it is fully functional. May have been changed for the very fact of better showcasing that the ocarina actually becomes those instruments, rather than magically already having them. Also, the Deku horns did look different here too, being white rather than wooden brown. Also, with Fierce Deity Link, normally Link's Helix Sword is automatically equipped and never in the inventory screen to unequip. However, it can be added to the inventory screen by the debug menu. However, since that is Fierce Deity Link's only weapon, the redundancy of it may be why it was removed. Now, one other oddity did exist in the old screenshots that showcased Goron Link wielding the Megaton Hammer on the B button at that, while Zora Link had the long shot. I theorize these were placeholders until given a finalized moveset, as we don't have a single screenshot of either of them using these weapons, and even the concept art of Goron Link was meant to punch from the get-go. Now, it's entirely possible that these were intended all along. Goron Link with the Megaton Hammer would fit considering the Fire Temple, and Zora Link having the long shot is also fitting due to the Water Temple. However, these are actually just the icons from Ocarina of Time and not changed slightly even, so they may have just been placeholders actually. and thus bringing us to the items carried over from Ocarina of Time. Some of these items that I'm going to showcase may have been originally intended to be used as is or just kept as placeholders before being updated to modern versions. In the earliest screenshots, we saw the Fairy Ocarina instead of the Ocarina of Time. This very well could have been the original intention, as Link could have given that Major relic back to the Hyrule royal family and went back to his old one. The odd part is that Link has it equipped to the B button in this old screenshot here. Maybe they were thinking of letting you equip anything to B then? Otherwise, the Fairy Bow and Slingshot were also back. Potentially the idea was for the Slingshot to exist still in the game, but ultimately tossed out for just a bow. Now everything from the Longshot and Blue Fire from Ocarina of Time were here too. All could have been intended for the final game as well, before the Hookshot were updated to the final one. However, Blue Fire might have just been tossed out for not being needed for Snowhead Temple if that was the intention all along. As for other leftover items, trade items for the Big Goron Sword are left over. On top of that, the models for the Big Goron Sword, the Broken Giant Knife, the original Kokiri Sword with warped textures, and the Mirror Shield are here. But the Mirror Shield seems to look a little different here. What makes this Mirror Shield so strange is that it is using the texture of the updated symbol that wasn't introduced as the replacement of the original symbol until the GameCube port of Ocarina of Time a few years later. Maybe because of this update, they were considering reintroducing it here. It is equipable, but it has no model, so it is invisible when used. It blocks projectiles, but doesn't reflect light. And then we have the fishing pole from Ocarina of Time. Using it is like using the Mirror Shield in that it also appears invisible. However, we know a fishing game was planned for this game called Jabu Jabu Fishing, so this very well could have been put in with plans to use it. Now on to totally cut items from the game. Items made for Majora's Mask, but ultimately cut. Starting with the Hylian Loach. May very well have been meant for that cut fishing minigame there. Its model is still here too for when you get it. What I find odd is that it is called Hylian, while in Termina, the term Hylian isn't used anywhere, especially considering it is a parallel universe and all. Another interesting item is one called Granny's Drink. The first thing I thought of when seeing this was the soup that you get in the Wind Waker from your grandmother that gives you 2 shots of healing. There are only 2 people in the game given the title of Granny in the Japanese version, one being Kotake, the other being Anju's grandmother, both being rather fitting with Kotake being able to make potions for you especially. But if this did influence the drink from Wind Waker later on, it's possible that Anju's grandmother was supposed to be the one that gives it to you all along. Now, before hitting up the cut abilities of Link, there were surprisingly a number of cut items from the beta stage of Ocarina of Time still around in the data, including the beta wallet, Slingshot, and Kokiri Sword that was found in the January 2021 Overdump leak. Top that off with the old musical notes that represented the songs you got, beta bombs, heart containers, and general healing hearts. Shows how they may have just carried on from Ocarina of Time's project with such things being around after so long. Now on to Link's beta abilities. We will begin with Deku Link and how he originally was meant to shoot Deku Nuts instead of bubbles. A fitting move as that is what a Deku does constantly. While earlier in the video I did say that the Megaton Hammer and Hookshot were potential placeholders for Goron and Zora Link, screenshots of Deku Link did exist with a Deku Nut on B2. One would presume this is also a placeholder, but if one looks under the unused animations of the game, there is one called Player Scrub Spitball and Player Scrub Spitball Deku Flower. The description for both of these literally states Deku Spit Deku Nut. As such, while the other 2 may have been placeholders, this one was actually intended as the original attack. Now amongst the songs in the game, there are 2 songs that are still here from Ocarina of Time, one being Saria's song, which when played, it does nothing. However, if one plays the other song, the Sun Song, it actually functions as it should and moves the game's clock forward to morning or night, and in real time at that. This is a contrast to its counterpart, the Song of Double Time, that functions similarly, but it warps Link forward instead of being done in real time with the clock moving forward before our eyes. Not just that, but the Song of Double Time also couldn't be played in all locations, such as the mayor's house. However, the Sun Song can be played anywhere, and it works as intended. It's possible that this was the original intended song with how well it does function. In fact, 3 cut objects exist of pedestals that have the Triforce, Goron, and Kokiri emblems on it. But at the bottom of all 3 of these are notes for the Sun Song. It might have been just a placeholder, as this object was replaced with the Song of Soaring's pedestal, but it's possible the Sun Song might have had a link with these as well if this was indeed intended as the original way to move time forward. And the final cut abilities are Fierce Deity Link's abilities to use the Sword Beam on a number of things outside boss rooms and actually do damage. This includes everything from signposts, stall children, Gerudo guards, Skull Kid on the clock tower, and even Pamela's father in Ikana Canyon. Normally, this wouldn't be possible as anything that an attack interacts with has to be programmed for it. Otherwise, it would act as if the attack never happened. It's very possible, like the original Adult Link mask, the idea by the developers was to be able to use it anywhere, and so many things were programmed for it, but may have been dropped due to time constraints. At least one can test this using the glitch to use the Fierce Deity mask anywhere. While it was a short development time, a lot of different experiments may and were done utilizing both old and new ideas. Many stayed, some were cut, and a ton just gradually evolved into some of the most memorable items and abilities of the game. And this goes for a lot of Majora's Mask content, from maps, story, and even designs, all of which I plan to cover. So hit the subscribe button, for I'll plan to be back with more Zelda and other games cut content soon. Hit the like button and comment below on which of these you wish stayed into the final game. So everyone, thank you for watching.